G'day, this is Cliffo and welcome to Cliffo Runs Wide. In Australia we love our epic road trips, and this is a recount of my road trip from Canberra to Finke and then up to Darwin for race marshalling in 2021. Hope you enjoy the trip with me. Day 1, Canberra to Broken Hill. Let's see how far I got. So just here for a little bit of a test and adjust and a wee stop at 4 degrees. That might be a bit of a challenge. Had the picture of the bike there in the garage, but with the background being a bit cluttered, you didn't really get a bit much of an impression, I guess, of just how much crap, I suppose, I'm carrying on this. Basically, I've got the two soft panniers, one on either side. One's got tools and things in it. The other one's got food and coffee and that sort of thing. Top box has got the clothes, and the duffel bag there's got all my accommodation. There's a tent, a light mattress. The blue thing sticking out there is a little light stretcher, keeping me up off the ground, assuming it's going to be cold along the way. The tank bag was a late addition, thanks to Brother Mork. It's a great little bag, and it's got things like all the chargers for the gear. It's the bike so far has been running very, very well. It's a V-Strom 650. It's actually set up still with the lambs restrictions, but that just means there's a little bit of top end missing, which so far hasn't been any real challenge because I'm just cruising along doing pretty much the speed limit anyway. Got enough rubbish on there, I'm not going to be going any faster than that, and so far it's been a comfortable trip. I'm just making sure that everything's okay there. You can see my thermos, that's got hot water for my coffee. I never go without too far from being away from coffee, and some wet weather gear just sitting on the top. Though the weather so far, I mean, it's sort of grey and cloudy and overcast, and at 4 degrees still at this early part of the day. I'm hoping it's going to get warmer as the further we get west. From here, moving on to Dubbo, and then through to Broken Hill, and I'll see just how far I get today. Cheers. Well, g'day. It's about 11:30 with 420 kilometres gone. I'm in Dubbo, which is a lot further than I thought I'd go. The weather has been pretty good. It's warmed up to about 14 degrees now. It was it got down to 3 degrees getting into Cowra, and then from Cowra through to here, went through Cumnock and some other place I can't quite remember. Yeovil. The road was pretty good, not much traffic. Wildlife's been pretty sparse, seen some cockatoos. They're about the only thing I've seen, haven't seen much of anything else. I've left the helmet on just because I was pretty happy with how the Bluetooth unit on the side here carried through my voice when I spoke to you back at Borrolwa. I thought it might be a bit of a chance to sort of give you a bit of a heads up on what I'm wearing and things like that as we go along. So if you've gone to the first post of this morning, I put a link there, or if you go to the information in Facebook with the URL, you've got a satellite tracker, the spot tracker, so you can see where I am at any 10-minute intervals. And that's this unit here. I'm wearing it up on my camelback strap, so it's nice and close. It's got a good shot to the sky. Keeps track of where you are, and as I said, it's set with 10-minute intervals, and it uploads my position to the individual website that you can use to find out where I'm at. But the great thing about this thing is it's got a couple of functions. So if I flip the little cover off, I can hit an SOS button. It goes to an emergency response call centre. They then send on the details, the exact GPS position to local emergency services and wherever you are in the world. And then you can get assistance. It's got another button I can push to send an automated message that's preset, whatever message you want. And that's the one that says I've arrived for the night, everything's good, no worries. There's another one further over where you can set another message saying shit's gone trumps, stand by for a phone call or something along those lines. So that way you can alert your family that things aren't quite right, and maybe there's a phone call coming, you might need help from assistance or something. It's a Spot 3. There's a newer model now, a Spot 4, and then there's a Spot X, which has a two-way function. These really much just have sort of a one-way function up to the satellite, and but don't really text backwards and forwards as such. On the other side, in the little sort of pouch thing here, I've got a little 40 channel 5 watt UHF CB radio, and I haven't got that turned on most of the time. It's possible to hardwire it up into the Bluetooth unit so I can at least listen to it. It doesn't have a two-way Bluetooth or anything like that, so I can use it. But it's more of an emergency backup. It's on channel 40. If I turn that on, that's the sort of standard channel, but I can listen to cars, trucks, four-wheel drives, and caravanners, depending on which channel you're on, if I need it. But it's more of an emergency backup if something was to go wrong, particularly once I get out into the more remote areas and there's no telephone coverage, that I can use the UHF radio to at least try and contact somebody to get assistance. The weather's pretty cool, like I said. Great AGV helmet that I bought in Tasmania back about 2018 when I head-butted after I hit Brooker Highway down there. It's a great helmet. It's got the sort of flip-down visor thing. It's got great ventilation through the top that you can shut if you want to. It fits pretty well. I've also got on my Hellite Roadmaster airbag jacket. For those that know it, it's got a toggle down here that goes to a leash that's attached to the bike, and if I was to come off, it would fire off a gas cylinder. It'd blow up around my neck and back and in front, and hopefully shield me from the worst of potential damage. Other than that, all the gear all the time, good gloves, good boots, and heavy trousers with the knee pads and the hip pads in them, so that if I was to have even a light fall, I wouldn't hurt myself. So here, like I said, here we are at Dubbo. It's pretty much a bit of a lunchtime. I'm going to have a think about where I'm going tonight. I was going to stop at free camping along the way, using the Whippy Campsam app to find free camping sites, roadside stops. But going so well, I'm not real sure where I'm going to stop tonight. I'll be using the app later on then, but I'll be heading from here towards Broken Hill, and I'll see how far I go. Catch you later. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Arrived about 3:30 in Cobar. I've pushed through much further than I thought I might. That's 296.3 kilometres from where I last filled up in Dubbo, and I've just filled up here again in Cobar. So far that's some 700 odd kilometres I think we've done today. Let me just have a look on the bike here. I've got another 70 kilometres to go, about half an hour or so, and that's good timing in terms of setting up camp before it gets too dark or before the wildlife starts hitting the roads. Let me just have a look at my odometer here and see what it says in terms of how far we've gone. Yeah, that's 17.7 kilometres. So, 717.7. There you go. 717.7 kilometres, and I've got another 70 to go before I get to the camp for the night. Probably won't have 3G coverage or 4G coverage there, so I figure this is a bit of a good night. Thanks very much. It's been great fun talking to you so far. As the trip goes along, I'll give you a bit of an idea about how I put things together and anything interesting that might happen on the way. So far it's gone very good, and at the moment it looks like I'll probably be a day ahead of schedule by the time I get 3 stops turned into 2 stops and all that sort of thing. That's not a bad thing. It's I can just take it a little bit easier if I need to, or even just have a day off once I arrive before the work starts. All right, well, have a good evening, and I'll report back in the morning. Well, good morning, friends and lovers. It's Sunday morning, about 7:18 here at the campground called Cuba, which is outside of Cobar, about 60 kilometres as it turned out, not the 70 that I quoted yesterday. And it's a cracking campground. There's a lot of grey nomads here with their caravans and the like, and I thought I'd show you around a little bit before I pack up and move on. Got in about 4 or 4:30 yesterday, ended up going to lay down and reading and stuff at about 6, which meant then I was well awake again by 11:30. So having a tent set up, etc., obviously wasn't in a position to then move on. Normally if I was in the van, I'd just pull up, have a nap, and then wake up again and keep driving. And I've even been known to do the all-night ride sort of thing too, but this is not really the occasion for it, and having the tent set up, of course. I just went back to sleep again, woke up a couple of times during the night, got up and had breakfast about 5:30 when it was 4 degrees, so not nearly as cold as Canberra, and it's currently balmy 8. Let's see if I can switch this camera around and we'll have a look around. Nope, can't do that. All right, I'll just turn it around and see how we go. All right, so you can see there, Barrier Highway, 63 to Cobar, 197 to Waikanya. It's quite a good site. Plenty of caravans around. It's got the amenities there. Probably got about 2 dozen caravanners in for the night. Some wild goats. They were the main wildlife I saw yesterday. That and what looked like they might have been feral sheep that had escaped from somebody's paddock or whatever. Dawn's coming up. It wasn't a bad place. Everybody was nice and quiet. A few people come around and said g'day. Wasn't feeling terribly sociable. Sometimes, believe it or not, I just like to be quiet, particularly in the evenings and after a long day. So I just went to bed early and then paid the consequences of being awake half the night. But it's okay. Got plenty of rest at least. Today we're off to Broken Hill, then on to Port Augusta, and I'll up and play it by hand and see how that goes, depending on how the travelling is and what I can find in terms of campsites on the wiki camps. Let's see how far I get today. Weather's looking good. It's clear skies. That was the problem yesterday, was the clear skies meant that it was going to be cold overnight, which it was, but the ex-army sleeping blanket with the stretcher and an air mattress, I was quite warm sleeping. Getting up at 5:30 at 4 degrees, it was okay. Coffee and porridge, and it was all good to go. So we're coming up to where I've camped now. I've got most of my stuff packed up. I switched the load around a little bit. Yesterday when I left home, the duffel bag full of camping gear was a little bit too far forward. The stretcher that was packed between that and the top box was pushed it all a little bit too far forward. So at lunchtime at Dubbo, I moved it, gave myself another couple of centimetres at my back. Given I've got the camelback on, it meant that I was just a little bit too far forward. So just the way I strapped it down, pushed it back a little bit, it came quite good. And so far, for the 717.7 plus whatever it is, 60 kilometres to get to here, it's been okay, which is good, because I have been known to have problems with my neck and my back with bikes unless they're set up exactly ergonomically for me. The other thing that I've moved around today, which has been a bit of a bugger, is that I've the panniers there. Got the one here with the thermos on top has got the tools, etc. in it, and on the other side is the kitchen. It's got food and a gas cooker and stuff. You can see I've put the solar panel over on that side. Yesterday I had the solar panel on this side. It powers up a power box, power bank, and I can plug particularly the Bluetooth for the helmet in at night time and charge that up. It's also got 2 very good LEDs, and I've also got a LED string light, which if I string that out, a couple of metres long, makes a very good camp light. It's very, very cheap, just from Jcar, throws good illumination and doesn't use very much electricity. But as I was riding along yesterday, I noticed that the sun was on the other side, to my right, all the way along, which is why I've moved the solar panel across to the right today. That's meant that I've had to switch the gas burner and the pots over to the tool side and put the power bank on the other, which is, it's no bugger, but it just means I have to rearrange things and try and make space for it. So yeah, just waiting for the dew to settle down a little bit before I pack the tent up. So I've got everything else packed into the panniers, top box, got my the gear sack, the camelback there with the new bladder for the day. Used the water up from yesterday, either drinking along the way or for breakfast this morning. So it's now empty. I'll refill that a bit later so I've got 2 camelback reservoirs with me at all times. But it's sun's getting up pretty well. I'll pack this up and I'll get on the road and see you a bit further down. Catch ya. Lunchtime on Monday, just outside Broken Hill, or at the on the way out of Broken Hill. That was another 200 kilometres from Wilcannia, and we're really in the outback now. I can tell you that it was the first time I really saw, or at least on this trip, that whole horizon to horizon flat land thing going on. A little bit of rise, but mostly just really much just the flat open scrub. With that, we've got some wind, as you can probably tell. Well, what hair I've got's blowing around a little bit, which has played havoc with the fuel consumption a little bit. It was sort of head on. 200 kilometres of pretty much open ground until then got to the rise, which will come to then to Broken Hill. So your lunchtime just on 12:30 and just under 1,200 kilometres. So a bit more to go. I'll do a bit of a pick of where to go next. Somewhere around Port Augusta, I guess. I'm seeing signs now for Adelaide. So heading towards that direction, Port Augusta just being north of Adelaide, and where I very much turn from going west to going north on the road, which pretty much the last stop would be Darwin if I was to go all the way. But not going all the way, going only halfway to Canberra, turning into Finke. But I won't be going that far today, obviously. All right, catch you later. The intent had been to get from Broken Hill, perhaps to somewhere around Port Augusta, but I ended up pulling up at Peterborough, which is a lovely little town in South Australia, has a very good little caravan park with a lovely little grassed camping site for the tent, though I did find that there was a grey nomad camp just out of town that I could have used for free. Next morning I went on from Peterborough and was heading for Coober, but it was very, very windy out in the open plains heading north, and found that it was very tiring and that the fuel consumption was being affected as a result. So I ended up pulling up at the roadhouse at Glendambo, which had cheap rooms for the night, and I was able to stay there ahead of a very, very gusty afternoon and evening. Good morning. It's about 9 o'clock local here at Marla, which is on the border between South Australia and the Northern Territory. So after nearly 2,400 odd kilometres, I've gone across New South Wales, across South Australia, halfway across to Port Augusta, and then proceeded north here to Marla just before going across into the Northern Territory. Now Marla's got a fair sized roadhouse here with a bit of a township in behind it, I think. So there's motels, camping ground, a little supermarket thing, and it seems to be the turn off to the Unandata track. A big sign here advertising the Flinders Ranges and all points for people that like their four-wheel driving, I guess. As I posted earlier, I left at about 2 a.m, rode through to Coober, had breakfast at the roadhouse there, and then proceeded on to here, and making very, very good time. Sign out on the road here saying that Colgra Alice Springs is off to the right. Colgra 178 kilometres, Alice Springs 452. Well, I'm not going to Alice Springs until I'm proceeding out on the way after the races are done at Finke on Monday or Tuesday, depending on what time I get away from Finke at the end of the when the race is over, or the racetrack's at least closed at the Finke end. It's a lovely day here, as you can see behind me. Lots and lots and lots and lots of blue sky, which is nice. Still pretty cold though. This camera's shaking just a little bit because it is only at 5 degrees still. But at least it's not windy. The ride early this morning was pretty good. Again, there was no wind. And for people that are worried about me riding at night time, no, I don't tend to worry too much about riding at night time. And I didn't really see anything in the way of any wildlife at all. I think with the rain, it's keeping the wildlife off to into the scrub somewhere rather than coming along to the sides of the road where they find stuff in the gutters, you know, or in the bit where the water runs off the tarred surface. As far as wildlife though, I've seen camels. There's a fair mob of camels off to the left-hand side in I don't know whether they're in a paddock of some sort, or if they're farmed or whether they're wild camels. And there's been some cattle, because the cattle stations around here don't bother fencing, or they're far too large to fence. So there are signs saying that you're now into a certain cattle stations area, and to watch out for their unrestrained animals. So it's all good, like I said, except for the cold. It's a nice day, just refilled here, and my next stop will be Culgra. I'll report in then. See you later. The run from Glendambo to Culgra was uneventful. Culgra Roadhouse is a great facility with food, accommodation and fuel in a great position in between major centres. Accommodation includes standalone rooms, donga style accommodation, and plenty of room for camping. Importantly for me, Culgra is also the turn-off to Finke and all points to the east into the desert. The trip tomorrow will be 147 kilometres, an unsealed track. We'll see how that goes. Well, friends and lovers, it's about 2:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday afternoon, and here we are on the Finke Road. That's back toward Culgra, and that's Finke. And as you may notice from the shadows and the fact that I've got the bike pointing in the wrong direction, this track, I've given up on it. It's for a freshly graded track. It's corrugated. It's got these mounds here. You can see where I kicked up some of the dirt here. They're alongside some of the tracks, which are fantastic for catching out bikers. Some of the sides are a little firm, and in other places it's fairly deep dust. You can see here where I've pulled up and cut myself a nice little place to pot some bloody potatoes or something. So anyway, I did a bit of a Group 9 decision, had a bit of a think about it, and I didn't want to fight another 130 or whatever kilometres worth of this stuff, where I've had a couple of little slow speed fall-offs, and I'm starting to knock the gear around a bit, though I'm fine. The bike's running fine, etc. It's just it's getting a bit bloody tedious. So I'm heading back that way, back to Culgra, and try and park the bike up somewhere nice and secure, and then just grab a lift with somebody coming out to the races. This will upload when I get back into the data range of the Roadhouse, and I'll give you a bit of an update later. Everything's fine, just letting you know if you're looking at the map that I'm going in the wrong direction now. Cheers. Day 6, the 10th of June, which just happened to be my birthday, turned out lovely, although a little overcast. The landlord was kind enough to let me park the bike out in his workshop area behind the Roadhouse itself, in behind closed gates, so I'm pretty happy with that. People give me heaps for talking to random dogs, but I met this lovely little fella. It just so happened that he and his owners are heading out into the eastern desert past Finke to have a look around out there, and I was able to get a lift with them without really having any wait at all to try and find a lift. So thanks very much. Can't remember your name, but you're a lovely little fella. Just so happens that my father, Russell Wallace Clifford, lived in Finke for about 30 years, having partnered with an Indigenous lady later in his life. He's passed now, and he's resting in Alice Springs Cemetery. But it was great to come and have a look at where he'd lived for most of his life, the later part of his life, and see who remembered him. As it turns out, many people remembered him, of course, and so it was great to be the eldest son visiting the township finally, even though it was after his passing. The Finke Desert Rally is a week-long celebration based in Alice Springs and is a huge money spinner for the Northern Territory and local communities. The race week in 2021 started with Tuesday through to Thursday, the 8th, 9th and 10th of June, with competitor and volunteer signing on, with Thursday being the first of the celebrations with a Finke Street Party and night markets in Alice Springs. Friday, the 11th of June, was taken up with scrutineering, with a prologue race on Saturday, the 12th of June, around Alice Springs, to set the order for the big race day. Sunday the 13th of June is the race from Alice Springs out to Finke for all competitors, being the trucks, the buggies and the bikes, returning on Monday the 14th of June from Finke to Alice Springs with a presentation that night. Meanwhile, while celebrations were on in Alice Springs, volunteers were out at the Finke end establishing the checkpoint, bunting, and marking off areas that the local elders didn't want people to go. This took a couple of days with very few volunteers and was rather hard work.
This was the scene 35 kilometres from the finish line, where a vehicle competing in the race left the track, sending horrified onlookers scrambling for cover.
And what we know at this stage is that a 60-year-old, a male in his 60s, has died at the scene.
A second man in his 50s suffered serious injuries, while the female navigator of the vehicle was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Finke Desert Race attracts hundreds of competitors and thousands of spectators as bikes, cars, buggies and quads try to navigate the remote dirt circuit. The event began on Sunday when almost 900 competitors headed from Alice Springs to the remote community of Apachula. The fatal incident occurred during today's return leg, shortly after six-time bike winner Toby Price claimed the King of the Desert crown in a car. Racegoers say they're shocked and saddened by what happened.
It's very unfortunate after all these years, and then unfortunately someone's lost their life as a spectator.
The circumstances surrounding the incident are still under investigation. Motorsport Australia says it's offering counselling services, and police are urging any witnesses to contact them. Saskia Maben, ABC News, Alice Springs.
The assistant clerk of course at Finke made the first announcement that the start of the return leg for the bikes had been delayed. And then, after further information came through police channels, that the event had been cancelled and that we'd have to work out how to get 250 bikes back to Alice Springs safely and before nightfall. This was arranged very, very well by the local police, allowing bikes that could go out onto the highway to return that way if they were registered and insured. Meanwhile, all other competitors maintained their transponders, and the checkpoints and refueling stops along the way were maintained and were sent back in groups of 50 under the supervision of senior riders wearing high-vis vests. The racing was over, and all we had to worry about was getting all competitors back to Alice Springs safely. Good afternoon, friends and lovers. It's just short of 2 o'clock here on Tuesday afternoon, about 100 kilometres short of Tennant Creek. And this is a bonus set of videos because you've been so nice to me on the comments, etc. I was going along, and I don't normally, as I say, stop for sort of for scenery, but we've got here is the Devil's Marbles right alongside the road, and they're really very, very striking. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a look. Now I can't zoom in on the video while I've got the sort of super steady function on, but you could see perhaps on your screens at home, but right behind me here you can get a bit of a closer look at sort of what we're looking at here. Now, I don't know anything about the geology of it at all, which is a bit of a shame really. It's certainly a place I've known about since primary school, but as I was going along and a little bit further to the south, looking at the ones you can see on your screen right now, it was really very, very impressive. And I hope you think so too. Catch you later. Okay, it's lunchtime on, what day is it, Wednesday? And we're here at Daily Waters pub. Somebody's been very, very clever and worked out to collect a bunch of collectibles to get people in off the highway, because this station, or this petrol station and pub, isn't really on the highway, but as you'll see in the still photographs I'll add, it's got a very interesting little Australiana museum, motorbikes and cars and military uniforms and a whole bunch of stuff. And along the road there's a couple of crashed helicopters and aircraft, including a Navy aircraft that you'll see there in the still photos. So we've just had a very nice lunch in the pub, which has got all sorts of collections, including the traditional bush pub thing of having bras hanging above the bar, but a very nice and shady little beer garden. Great facilities, accommodation and everything. So somebody's been very, very smart to collect all this stuff. But yeah, they've really pulled in the punters, as you can see. Plenty of caravans around, plenty of Harleys going up and down the highway. They don't have to worry about going on the dirt like I had to back going into Finke. But it's certainly a great little tourist stop, a great pub for lunch, and perhaps a place to stay for the evening. Steve and I are leaving very soon. We've had lunch, so we're moving on to Mataranka for the evening, and then that's just short of Catherine, which will be our next fuel stop after here, and then we'll be into Darwin. And we know we're all checked in for the Darwin caravan park because they're expecting a huge intern tomorrow, and they've actually rung us and confirmed the bookings and arrival times and things. So it's going to be slightly hectic in Darwin with the upcoming motorsport festival out at Hidden Valley. Anyway, catch you later, and thanks very much for watching. After a relaxing afternoon in the hot springs at Mataranka, Steve Sant and I had a great sleep in the camping ground before heading into Hidden Valley. We checked into the caravan park, set up our camp, and then got ready to go out to dinner at the casino, where we were meeting up with a bunch of our other flag marshal and racing official friends, and had a great time. It was great for Troy Herfoss to stop by and take a photo for us. Good on you, Troy. Come race 2, Troy Herfoss, who'd already dominated in race 1 with a fastest lap of 1:05.618, had set a new lap race record for the Superbike class, beating his own record of 1:05.904 set 3 years earlier. and looking for his third Australian Superbike Championship, went into race 2 from the third position, plate number 17. Unfortunately, on the first lap, coming around turn 2 and into turn 3, Troy cranked his bike over onto the right-hand side for the first time, lost the corner with the bike going into the air fence. Later scans confirmed that Herfoss had sustained a badly broken right humerus and a femur. Both required surgery and took him out for the rest of the season. But being the true champion that he is, Troy came back through 2022 slowly recovering from his injuries and hit 2023 ready to go and challenge for his third Australian Superbike Championship. By the end of the year, he had regained his third crown and has now moved on in 2024 to race in the Super Hooligans and the Bagger Series in Moto America. Good on you, Troy. After the event, it was time to head home. Steve Sant decided to continue his trip around Australia and headed west. I returned back through Culgra and headed east through Queensland to visit friends and family all the way back to Canberra. More familiar territory, but still with some challenges ahead. Well, good morning. It's Wednesday morning, the 23rd of June. I haven't done a video thing for you for a little while, so I just stopped out here in the middle of nowhere for a bit of a rest stop after doing 270 kilometres non-stop since the highway inn that I stayed at last night. I'm about 100 kilometres short of the Three Ways Roadhouse, which is where I turn off to start heading east back towards Queensland, hoping to get to the Buckley homestead this afternoon. I thought I'd show you around a little bit here, just to sort of have a look at what's the middle of the outback looks like, I guess. Well, at least this bit. It's not quite as horizon to horizon as some other parts that I've ridden through earlier. What I'm showing you there now, you can see right out to the horizon, obviously, but what I've just ridden through has been some rising and falling ground with some very interesting rock formations in the very ubiquitous red rock that you've got around here. You can see there's quite a bit of scrub. Animal-wise, there were a couple of Droughtmaster cows on the road a little bit earlier. There's a little bit of roadkill, a couple of small kangaroos. Seen a couple of little eagles coming down and other raptors coming down to eat from those. But other than that, as you can see there a minute ago, there's a fair bit of green stuff around from the earlier rains. So most of the animals I suspect are keeping away from the roads. Traffic's been good. A lot of the roadside stops have got quite a lot of caravans in them. There must be thousands of grey nomads out here. The other transport on the road haven't been too bad. There's a couple of 3 and 4 trailer combination road trains. I've been sitting on around 115 kilometres an hour, which is nice and easy. It's a lot less than 130, which is the speed limit out here, but it gives me the range of about 350 kilometres out of a 20 litre tank, which is pretty good. And you get to see the scenery and you're not too strained, but it's just fast enough to be able to go around road trains, caravans and everything except for four-wheel drives and cars that aren't towing anything. The weather's about 23 odd degrees. It's been a lovely morning. The sun's been off to my left and behind. It's about time I put some sunscreen on, have a little something to eat and do that last 100 into Culgra Roadhouse to do a refill. Then I start heading due east. Catch you later. So this is the landscape just down from the Lake Air sign. That blue you see isn't water, that's the sky. And this is the sort of horizon to horizon thing. I'll try and get that level that I was talking about before. You can see the sky is fairly ponderous. It rained a little bit last night and it's only 18 degrees and very, very windy at the moment. So fuel economy is not great, it's chilly. One of the things I'll do at this stop. There we go, we're back to the road to give you an idea. That's 300. Well, this is part 2 of the video that I started out in the middle of the open plains, where I cut off the video a little bit early when I was saying I was going to get out the wet weather gear. As it turned out, I put on wet weather pants as well as a cold weather jacket, and I ran straight into the back of the wet weather front that you might be able to see on your weather report. I'm sitting at the Kelmwell Roadhouse at the moment, just over the border into Queensland, so I made it into Queensland. I was going to take a photo at the Queensland border, but there was quite a large police presence on the Queensland to Northern Territory side of the road, checking COVID declarations, I suspect, so I didn't stop there. So I've gone on into Commonwealth itself, and I'm sitting at the Roadhouse, just had a cup of coffee and assessing what's going on with the weather. Behind me is a TV that's just had the weather report on, and you can see the weather front, wet weather front going right through Mount Isa. So I'm basically coming into behind the rain, and I'm reassessing exactly what I'm going to do. I may not end up going north to Cairns. May spend a weather day somewhere waiting for the weather to clear out, and then get into Townsville. Not a Monday moment kind of morning. The ride's been not too bad. It was pretty windy along the way, but and getting colder. Around 18 degrees, which is quite warm for Canberra, I guess, but for out here it's chilly again after I've acclimatised to the Northern Territory weather, I guess. I also came along, I was saying that I hadn't seen much in the way of a lot of kangaroos along the way, but as it turned out, I came across a bit of a billabong waterhole or whatever running, the road ran through the middle of, and there was an extremely large red kangaroo sitting right in the middle of my lane. He's as tall as I was sitting on the bike, so he's around 2 metres. He was facing off the road. I slowed down and zigged as he zagged, and we agreed not to meet in the middle of the road. So that was quite good, but he was a big bugger, and he's the only live kangaroo I think I've seen on the entire trip to date. So a hell of a lot of caravans coming through here at the moment. This place, indeed the last petrol station back at Tablelands, the Barclay Roadhouse, was also pretty busy with caravanners, and the caravan park last night filled right up. So an awful lot of people out on the road. I'm going to see how things go, have a bit of a think about things, and I'll keep an eye on the tracker to see where I'm at. Cheers now. Townsville, my old stomping ground from my days at Laverack Barracks. It was great to be back in town. It's not a bad little town, though my wife would disagree. Stayed for the night with my good friends Julie and Rowdy, and their little pups. You gotta love dogs, and the dogs love me. So here we are, March 2024. I've been back to Darwin twice since the 2021 trip on the bike. Once by plane with my wife, as she'd not been to the Northern Territory before, and the following year, last year, in my transit van camping along the way. This year there's no bike round as part of the Triple Crown, so the HBK competition's not going to the Northern Territory. But a few of us are heading off to America soon, for the Circuit of the Americas round of MotoGP, and some of us are following up with the Moto America round at Atlanta. Troy Herfoss will be there, riding his bagger and his Super Hooligan for the Indian Motorcycle Company. We're very much looking forward to that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's rather long, but it was a big trip. I'm looking to do another one based on the America trip, and perhaps another one before that based on a trip I've done to America before, doing an iron butt ride. Look it up, find out what it's all about. If you like my stuff at Cliffo RSS, at Facebook or on YouTube, please like, subscribe, etc., so that you don't miss out on anything that I make, and so I've got some sort of idea of whether what you like and what you don't like. Comment if there's anything that's wrong or that you might like to see. Until then, it's Cliffo here. And my advice is always, keep the shiny side up.